Well, hello neighbors and friends. John, your whiskey neighbor here, and welcome to my kitchen table. Today, again heading into Canada Day, I'd like to talk about a Canadian whiskey. This one's from 40 Creek in Grimsby, Ontario, and this is last year's annual special release. This is 40 Creek Unity. Well, thanks for staying with me through the break there. As I said, heading in, we're getting close on Canada Day, and I wanted to share with you another, actually I think really good Canadian whiskey for you to think about and maybe have part of your celebration. So this whiskey is from really an iconic or well-known Canadian distillery, and I think arguably could be credited for creating the current or the modern day bit of interest or revival of Canadian whiskey. Now, I'm sure that's arguable, but I think John Hall's not part of it anymore. I should know when he sold it, but was creating some pretty bold, spicy, flavorful Canadian whiskeys, and I think that really helped everyone in the market go, hey, it's great to be known for sweet and smooth, but we can also be known for just a breadth of uniqueness and creativity and experimentation, and I think 40 Creek in Grimsby, Ontario could be thanked for some of that. So today I want to talk about Unity. Every year 40 Creek does a unique selection process or aging process or something to create a special once-a-year release, and it comes out usually in September, maybe October, but I think September. I think their next one's already online. You can go and pre-register, but this Unity is from last year's. It's the 2018 release. And it has a pretty interesting story on how they came out with this bottle. And I'll try to remember it as best I can. I'm sure I'll get something wrong, but please be forgiving, except correct me if I'm wrong as well. So as I understand it, to get out this year in 2018 release, they wanted to kind of go to the fans. So I don't remember the selection process, but they got, I think 5 fans. And what's kind of neat, it's a really nice looking box, is on the back, they've got 5 signatures of the fans of 40 Creek that they managed to bring back to the distillery and be part of the process of creating this. Then I think their master blender, I hope it's blender, not distiller, but Bill Ashburn, Bill's been there for a very, very long time, and I think he created some blends because typical 40 Creek, maybe it's different here, but typical 40 Creek is they actually age, their rye separate, their corn separate, their barley separate, whatever the constituents are going to be in their blends, they age them separately and then they pull them out, create a blend. And as I understand it, Bill drew, the 4-year-old stocks is kind of when they started thinking we should make whiskey, and he created some blends and gave it to the 5 people to choose. And then those 5 fans said, yep, this is what we like, we want it, this is it, it's good. And then as I understand it, they took that choice, put it back in to barrels. Now again, this is a bit foggy. It says mocha staves or mocha barrels, but it doesn't say, at least I couldn't find whether that was, were they reused for something? Are they true limousine oak toasted to that mocha, extra heating, cooking to get some of the chocolate notes? I don't know, but it says, took the blend, put it back in for kind of a marrying time in these high mocha stave barrels, but they weren't done. Then they have some excellent, a little older, 10-year-old straight corn whiskey, and so they put that in the blend. And then, somewhat controversial, they put in a small amount, an undisclosed amount of starboard wine, which is the same style as port, as a Portuguese wine. And I think it's made from the same grapes, but not in Portugal, so it can't be called port. I could be wrong about that, but it is starboard wine that they use. And for a little twist on that, the wine was aged for 15 years in 40 Creek whiskey barrels. So in here is sort of a hand-picked barrel selection by fans, then aged some length of time together, marrying in mocha staves, like a mocha toasted barrel of some kind. Then addition of 10-year-old corn whiskey, and then an addition of really 15-year-old Starwood wine, 15 years aged in ex-whiskey barrels. So quite a mix. Kind of an interesting, and I know I'm getting not famous, but known for talking too long before talking about whiskey. But I think it's kind of interesting to know that about this blend. So Canadian whiskey blend, Unity, last year's annual release, 43%. On the nose, this whiskey is cooked brown sugars, a little bit of deep fruits, some vanillas, butterscotch, butter toffee. You know, it is a rich, it makes your mouth water, nice to nose, nice to think about, very inviting, but quite sweet, high sweetness. And high sweetness on the kind of cooked sugar scale. Let's see how it tastes. Cheers. A very tasty dram. I would say balanced from cinnamons and baking spices with that sweetness that's on the nose, carries in its caramel and sugar. But, well, now I'm getting into the finish a little bit, but there's also already a little bit of oak, actually a fair amount of oak. But the finish now that I'm getting into is a little chocolatey, a little that toasted oak note. The rye spice kind of picks up in the mouth, hugs in the chest a little bit. Finish is decently long. It's a bit of a conversation. It's not just oak or just spice. I could say I'm getting almost like a deep red grape. Maybe not grape, deep red fruit, like a plum or a prune. That'd be better. Let's have another taste. Yeah. So this is a very tasty whiskey. It, quite a neat story and selection process. Great distillery, and here there's just a lot of flavor. The nose has many things. I'm probably not doing it justice. Someone could probably get more flavors out of it, but I certainly can appreciate it. Flavors on the tongue really go all over. From there's some rye spice in there to some definite high sweetness, some corn, some buttery corn, some butter toffee, that kind of thing. But oak is hanging around. Then you get that hint of chocolate or cocoa or something that's really heavily toasted malty, toasted, cinnamon toast kind of, right, where you get some of the grains, but now they've really been cooked. And the finish stays around. It does. It just it's funny. It kind of goes away from me a little bit, like, oh, that's kind of nice oak and pepper. Then it comes back, and it's still spicy in my mouth. And so I find there's a lot to like about this whiskey. It's easily a 4-star whiskey, and possibly more. I have some knocks for it a little bit, and I know there's quite a few 40 Creek fans out there, and being Canadian, I am one of them. I regularly buy 40 Creek. I do appreciate it. But this is still on that edge of sweet. And And you know, they added Starwood wine to it. And I was reading In Search of Elegance. It's a great blog. Excuse me, I don't know the person who writes it, but you know, clearly they probably know, I'm sure they know more about spirits and certainly been, you know, drinking them critically longer than I have. And they say, well, you know, chemically it's the same as aging a whiskey in an active or a wet port barrel. And that's probably true, but there's still something different for me, and I'm trying to get comfortable with it. Like the most famous example is Dark Horse here in Alberta, where they, you know, just stick a shot of sherry in it. And then it's been picked up in the U.S. by Basil Hayden, does a lot of that, where they just, you know, blend things and put things in there. And I have to say, flavor-wise, it works. It's a good whiskey. It's not my absolute go-to. It's a little bit on that sweet and smooth range that isn't my go-to right now. But I have to say, tasty whiskey, and released at 43%. It's not like they took whiskey and knocked it down with wine and it's somewhere in the 30s or something like that. No, it's got enough ABV to, like, you know, it's a whiskey, and it's well done. Like, clearly they know what they're doing in terms of getting a flavor profile. There's just an edge of me that feels like, it's a whiskey cocktail, which I appreciate whiskey cocktails, and not quite just a stand in the bottle whiskey. I think that's something I'm going to have to get over, because certainly Canada's known for making some great, unique blends. Canada Club, the 41-year-old, where they you know, just added some sherry to it. Haven't been able to pay north of $200, north of $250 for a bottle that, again, is a blend that way. But I probably will just get over it, because you know what? This Unity is good whiskey, and I'd be comfortable saying this Unity is more like 4.5 stars. It's I could totally live with that. It's good stuff, and the people at 40 Creek, you know, sharing that story with you is pretty unique, and I'm glad they went to their fans. Then I'm glad they said, well, this is good. They really like it, but we can make it better by kicking up this aged corn, and then even by adding Starwood wine. It's a little risky, and certainly from a flavor point of view, it turns out. So this is good whiskey. Thanks for hearing me rant, or staying with me while I ranted, and kind of a disjointed review, but I appreciate you guys coming here to the table and checking out some Canadian whiskey, and try to get a hold of a bottle for July 1st. Take care.